Hey guys, welcome back to my channel. So today what I really wanted to do was just sit down and kind of share with you guys about my trip to Uganda. I am making another video for my main channel for this gathered nest, and that video is a little more like pulled together and like produced, if that makes sense. It's a little more kind of concise, and I just wanted to make a video where I could sit down and just kind of chat with you guys about the trip and share with you some of the funny things that happened, just things that didn't really fit into the other video but that I still wanted to like talk to you guys about and share with you and just chat. So I've got my coffee here in my como se llama mug, and I figured let's just chat. Like, we were gonna have a cup of coffee together and you were gonna be like, Ange, how was your trip to Uganda? Tell me all about it. So one of the first things that I would tell you probably is that every time I leave the country, I feel like I learn so much. I learn so much about myself, about other people. It's always such an incredible experience. So Uganda was no different. This was my second time going to an African country. Many of you know that we adopted our son Noah from Congo, and so I spent about a month in the Congo completing his adoption. So that was a very different trip. Congo is a very different place than Uganda, even though they are neighbors. They are vastly different, and we'll talk about that in a second. And then I also asked you guys over on Instagram, if you're not following me over there, it's just this gathered nest, if you had any questions about my trip or anything you wanted me to talk about. So the long and short of it is that I was invited by my friend Loveland to come to Uganda and see their family sort of started this Shine ministry there, and we were invited to come see what it was all about, see what they were doing. And I've known Loveland for years and have admired and respected her for a very long time. So I knew right away that if this was something that her and her family were running, if this was something that they had started, that it was going to be something that was a good thing. It was going to be ethical, and it wasn't. I know I've gotten a lot of questions about, like, is this a short-term missions trip? Because obviously there's a lot and more than I could get into in this video. Okay, so just know that there's more than I can get into in this video that have to do with missions trips and short-term missions trips and long-term missions trips and all of that kind of stuff. Poverty porn, these kind of conversations that need to be had is a lot deeper and more than I can necessarily get into in this video. But just know that this trip, it was truly bringing people who have influence of some kind to come and see what Shine was doing. And the idea is that we will come back and share with our followers and share with you guys along the way, and y'all will want to get involved, because the reality is that nonprofits and ministries and organizations like this are only able to continue functioning and doing what they're doing with funding. And so obviously, you know, having more eyes on it, more people seeing it, sharing it is helpful in finding people to get involved. And you also just never know the connections that are going to be made and the people that are going to decide they want to help or have some kind of resource or way that they can help. They know somebody who does this or that, or, you know, that kind of thing. So we were going to observe and learn and help where we could while we were there. Of course, like, obviously we're not going to go and just be useless and sit around and take pictures and watch. Like, we're going to help and we're going to learn. And so she brought different people, like my friend Stacy, who is a clothing designer. She came to help teach some of the women who are in their empowerment program some different sewing skills. These women go through the program and write business plans for things that they would like to do and businesses they would like to start, and then they can get a business grant through Shine to start that business. And so one of the things that they are working on learning is different jewelry making. So another one of our friends, Shirley, she has a YouTube channel here, Home and Arrows. I will leave that link down below. She's another homeschooling mom that you would probably love to follow. But she used to do hand stamping of like metals. So she brought all of that stuff and donated it to them and was teaching them how to use it, which is so fun because incidentally, the teen boys were better at hand stamping than anybody else. And they made us all, I should have worn it for this video. They made us all necklaces. The teen boys made us all necklaces. And I love that necklace so much. It means so much to me. But yeah, so I came with my camera and took different pictures and videos and stuff like that that they can use. So we all kind of had something that we could offer them while we were there. We could offer Shine or offer to help with some of their programs and different things that we could do while we were there. But it wasn't it was really for us to learn and be able to come back and share. And so because Shine is kind of a baby ministry in that way, they are just a few years old. The one thing I want to tell you is that Love and her family did not go there and say like, hey, I think we'll start a ministry in Uganda. They have 4 children adopted from Uganda and they love being there. And so they decided to build a home there. And that is what they did. They found a piece of land and built a home that faces the Nile. It's beautiful, and it's in the village of Namibia. And so in moving there, in living there, and seeing the needs of their neighbors firsthand, that is what Shine was born out of, was out of, you know, loving your neighbor as yourself, basically. And so as their children, they have 11 children, and as their children began to make friends with the different kids in the village, and they were playing, they were learning of needs, and the kids were showing up sometimes to their home hungry, hadn't eaten in a couple of days. And so that was really what all of this was born out of, was a genuine love for your neighbor. It wasn't something that they set out to say like, how can we come in here and fix all these problems? So I just want to say that first of all, because I have a deep, deep love for Loveland and her family and what they're doing and for this ministry. And I believe that they are an example of doing it right and doing it ethically. They exist to preserve families, to prevent orphans, and to come alongside the people in the village to empower them, the women in the village to empower them so that they can get jobs, work to pay for their children's school, make sure that they can feed their families. It's not about giving just a bunch of handouts, though they do help. Sometimes help is just needed. Flat out, it's just needed. If somebody needs a C-section that costs $800, they obviously, most of the people who make are, you know, $1 a day. So they don't have $800 to pay for a C-section. And if you don't have the money to pay for it, then you just die. And that sounds harsh, but it's the reality. And so Shine can come in and help cover that, help cover the cost of a malaria test and medicine, which is about $7 for the test and medicine. And so there are lots of ways that they do come in and help, but they're not just there to be a place to get a hand out for the people of the village. And the people of the village know that. And that was evident to me in being there, that there is a genuine love and respect that goes both ways between the people of Uganda and the people of the village Namibia, as well as Love and her family. There is a love and respect that is reciprocated in both directions. So I want to say that because I think it's really important. But there was just so... I'm gonna answer your questions, because I think if I answer your questions, it will also help to just tell you what I want to tell you, because I'm sure you guys have asked things that are applicable. What was the part that you didn't think would affect you emotionally but did? Like hands down, the teen boys. I am a mom and my oldest child is 12 and I love children. Y'all know that. Like, I love children. And you can hand me a small child and be like, here you go. And I'm like, all right, bring it on. But I've never parented a teenager. I don't have a lot of experience with that yet. And so it's something that I know people in my life who have a real heart for teens. They work in teen ministry and that kind of thing. And that's just never been where my heart's been pulled. It's always been pulled towards younger children and things like that. But being there and meeting the teen boys specifically, and I don't want to share their stories or anything like that, but just knowing what they've been through and then seeing how far they've come. And they're all in school right now, and they were home on a break, on a like spring break from school, which is why we got to hang out with them and go to lunch with them and spend time with them. And like I said, Shirley taught them to do the hand stamping, and they made us necklaces. And they were just, I mean, when you think of a teenage boy who has had a rough life, and you think of like what they might be, the kind of people that they might be, like, it can just be intimidating because, you know, you think of like, oh, teenage boys, right? I mean, teenage boys, right? That's how people think. And so I didn't expect to like fall so much in love with them and to think of them truly like, man, these are children. They are children. They might be 16, 17, but they are children. And seeing them really honestly like act like children around Love, and they see her as mom and she sees them as her sons. It was such a beautiful thing that I didn't see coming, like how that was going to rip my heart out. And even just the day that we left, watching her say goodbye to them, I could like cry right now just thinking about it. That was the one thing that I didn't see coming. I didn't expect to have such an emotional response to them and to their stories. And just to the whole situation. So that definitely kind of came out of nowhere for me. What was the biggest misconception you had that was debunked? Hands down, I thought that Uganda was going to be a lot like Congo. They are neighbors, obviously, and so I assumed that it would be very similar. That's just, you know, my own naiveness showing and coming through. But I just thought it was going to be very, very similar. And in some ways, I guess it was, but it also really wasn't at all. You know, like I loved the people just the way that I loved the people in Congo, but it was a very, very different atmosphere. It was a different culture. It was very, very different. And I assumed that it was going to be the same. And I know that one of the things I was really intentional about when we were there was sharing with you guys all of the beauty and all of the amazing things in Uganda, because I got so many messages from y'all being like, well, I didn't even know that like Africa looked like that. I didn't know there were parts in Africa that was like that. And I didn't, because people have this vision of what we see on TV with such a beautiful people. And it was definitely like a very different experience. Like I said, when we were in Congo, we were in Kinshasa, we were in the city for pretty much the entire time that we were there. We went out through a village one day to get to an orphanage that we were going to, but that was it. And but this was different because we stayed in the village. I mean, they live, their home is in Namibia, so we stayed out in the village, and it was just, I don't know, it was very, very different than what I expected, but like in such a good way. Somebody asked, would you go again? Absolutely, 100%. We are planning to take our entire family. I will leave the details of that for another video, but probably next year we're going to be taking a very extended, so a number of months stay in Uganda with our entire family. So I'm very excited about that. I fell in love with Uganda, so I'm so excited to take my whole family back, and they are so excited to go. Which African countries have you been to? So I have been to Congo, obviously, to adopt Noah, and then I've been to Uganda. So I have lots of other countries I'd like to go to. And when I say Congo, I've been to the DRC, which is the Democratic Republic of Congo. There is also Congo, which is right next door, and that is on the coast. So that is where Moana Villages is, and I've shared with you guys before, and I still hope that I will be able to get there as well sometime in the next year. Best and worst food you tried? I couldn't even pick a best, you guys. The food there was incredible. It was so good. Everything from the food we got at the street vendors, the chapati, the Rolex, to the food that Maxie made us. She made us like this beef and rice dish that was so good. She made a chicken pot pie. I mean, everything she made was divine. When I went to Congo, and I was there for a month, I lost like 10 pounds. I gained like 10 pounds in Uganda. So if that says anything. Worst food, I can't think off the top of my head. I think the worst thing I had was we went to like this little cafe, and I ordered a cheeseburger and a milkshake, and I got a peppermint milkshake. It was delicious. The cheeseburger wasn't very good. The meat tasted funny to me. So that was the worst thing. But like Maxie's cooking, breakfast, she would make this egg scramble thing. Oh, my mouth just waters thinking about the food. It was so good. How do you feel it changed you as a woman, wife, and mom? Oh man, it's so hard. Like Uganda is such a beautiful, rich culture that is very relational based. And so I really take that back home and think about like, they are not all about productivity. They are about relationships. And so I think that's something that we could definitely stand to learn from them, as well as a lot of times like the way that they are with their children, and the things that I watched. Children behaviors are learned. So when we're, you know, maybe doing the Saturday ministry or whatever, and I'll talk about that in a little bit, but when you watch a 5-year-old taking care of their 1-year-old sibling, like, listen, y'all, I understand that in an ideal world that wouldn't be happening. But when you watch them lovingly and gently brush their hair or fix their buttons on their shirt or pat their back when they're crying, you know that that is a learned behavior. They are seeing that at home. Their mom is gently and softly loving on them. And to me, there was just something so incredibly special about the children, their relationships with each other, the way they treated each other, the way they helped, the way that they sacrificed, the way that they, you know, it would be so easy for those older children when they're bringing the kids to Saturday ministry and they get a mandazi, which is like a donut and a boiled egg. It would be so easy for them. They're holding one baby and they've got the food in their hand. They could easily eat that baby's food, and who would know? But they don't. They don't. It's just like this ingrained knowing what's right and knowing that they know what it feels like to be hungry. They don't want to be hungry. They don't want their little sibling to be hungry. So they share and I don't know, it's just, the children there are so different. Not to say that like American children are bad or anything like that, but it's just, there was something really, really beautiful about watching those relationships and watching how those children treated each other, knowing that it was a mirror to how they were being treated at home. And I think we often see, that we get when we're under stress, like a lot of times we'll take that out on our kids. We'll be harsher, we'll yell, we'll be more quick to anger. And for a lot of these people living in the village who are really surviving every day, to know that despite that, they're not taking that out on their children, was just something really beautiful to witness, and something that I felt like, man, we have so much to learn. I have so much to learn. I'll make sure I say that. I have so much to learn. I'm not saying anything to you or about you or how you might be, but I know that I have so much to learn. Reservations I had about going. The only reservation I had about going was just being away from my own children. Y'all, it is hard as a mom to say, like, I'm going to leave the country for 10 days. So I'm not going to see my kids for 10 days. That is really, really hard. Yeah, that was the hardest part. That was my only reservation, was just leaving my kids. But I knew they were going to be with their dad. I knew that they have the best dad in the world and they were going to be totally fine. In fact, better than fine. How has your trip to Uganda affected your faith? So I consider myself a woman of strong faith. I didn't go there expecting necessarily that my faith would be changed in any way, but as God always likes to do, He has something to teach me in all of these trips and all these places that I've been. It's always something for me to learn. And I think one of the things I've been struggling with a lot is church as a building, church as like that place. And as you guys know, we've had struggles in finding a church. It's something that has been really hard and something that I don't usually talk about a lot. But when you have a large family and you have children with special needs and things like that, sometimes finding a place where you feel welcome, and it can be hard. And one of the things that was such a beautiful reminder to me was being there. We were there for 2 of the Saturday ministries where the kids come. Like I said, they get the mandazis and eggs. And then the second Saturday, which they're trying to make it every Saturday, they also get rice and beans. But there's 500 to 600 children that come from the village for this Saturday ministry. And it's also a time of worship, and they do a Bible study, and it's just really beautiful. And being there in that space, worshiping with these children who had such a pure, that's the best word I can think of, just such a pure faith. And being in their presence, worshiping God with them, was one of the most touching experiences of my life, and one of the times I felt the closest to God in my whole life, and really feeling His presence was in that hut in Uganda, in the middle of a village in Uganda, with these 500 children singing to Him. Was really incredible and really beautiful, and really served to strengthen my faith in knowing that God is not confined. He doesn't need big fancy churches. He doesn't need light shows and concerts and fancy to be present with us. It was really, really beautiful for me to have all of that stripped away, all of the fuss and the muss stripped away, and just true worship is something that can be really hard to come by when in America we need so much from our churches in order for us to enjoy them or show up or whatever. It's kind of turned into a big production in a lot of ways. And please, I'm not trying to like attack anybody or anything like that. I'm just saying it was really incredible to be in the presence of having all of that stripped away and have it just be about worshiping God. And that was it. It was not a show. It was true and heartfelt worship. And it was just really incredible to be a part of that. And it definitely was one of those moments that like will always live in my heart and in my mind as like a reminder of when I've really, one of the times in my life that I've really felt God's presence. Tips on ethical short-term missions. I feel like I could probably, I don't feel qualified to necessarily speak on this. I would say that you need to do a lot of research about the organization that you're going with. What's the purpose of you going? Are they bringing you when they could be hiring someone local within the community to do a job? Are you going to build a wall that you could pay local Ugandans to build and help that, you know, influx with the economy that way, instead of bringing people? There is a time and a place for outsiders coming in and helping with certain things, or again, bringing their influence, honestly, bringing their influence and to help with funding and stuff like that. Like, there's absolutely a time and a place for that. But there also needs to be understood that, like, the more that we can give back and put back onto the people there to empower them to make the changes, that is what ultimately is needed. And that's one of the things I love so much about Shine, is that pretty much all of their staff, with the exception of 1 or 2 people, are Ugandan. All their pastors are Ugandan. They don't bring in pastors from America. They have 2 local pastors. Their worship leader is Ugandan. Like, everything, it's pretty much, their goal is eventually to be fully Ugandan led. So, and they'll just kind of like oversee, be visionaries for what's happening and making sure that, you know, medical facilities are being built and stuff like that. So they obviously, they'll still be a part of it, Love and her family and everything, but like eventually to be Ugandan led. And I think that is a really important piece. I don't know if that answers your question in any way. I might have just gone off on a tangent, but that is a deep, deep topic that needs a lot of conversation. How did you balance emotions while there, like not feeling overwhelmed over our privilege? I didn't balance well. I tried to balance well. I didn't always balance well. It is so, so incredibly hard to know that it's such a weird place to know that, like, you're here and you're experiencing these things, but you're going to go home and this isn't your reality anymore after this. And so, man, is it like, that's the thing though, is that we have to make a conscious choice to put ourselves, when we're born into a place where this is not our struggle, this is not our story, we have to make a choice to put ourselves in it. We have to walk into that, walk into someone else's heart, into someone else's story, and show up in the ways that we can to be helpful. And it's something that I feel like is even more important, is understanding that, like, that could have just as easily been you. You could have been born there. That could have been your child that was dying of malaria and needed the pills. It could have been, I mean, really, when we stop and think, like, that could have just as easily been me, it's making a conscious choice to not just turn our backs on it, to not just turn away from it and say, it's not my problem, it's not in my backyard, it's not my neighbors, it's not my story, and to just turn away. So for me, when I'm in that space, or I'm in a new place and I'm experiencing something like that, but specifically on this trip to Uganda, I really just say, like, I'm going to allow this to hurt me. I'm not going to try to self-preserve. I'm not going to try to protect. I'm going to put the walls down and I'm going to let this hurt me. I'm going to cry. I'm going to let it, all the feelings come in, because I know that when I do that and I really let those feelings simmer, that's what will spur the action to actually do something, to actually help and make a change in my own life. Did you find it hard not to get too attached? Absolutely. I fell in love with everybody that we spent time with. It was just, so many incredible people and friendships and things like that. I can't wait to go back. What's the best way to experience the culture of Uganda? So depending on where you go, I mean, obviously we were outside of Jinja in a village, but you can also go to Kampala, which is a bustling city. I think people, again, just have kind of a misconception, but there's so many beautiful things. Wild Waters is this beautiful resort. If you have a little money you'd like to influx into the economy, it's pretty expensive, but we went there for lunch. We didn't stay there, but it's absolutely beautiful. There's all kinds of safaris that you can go on, but the Ugandan people are so friendly and kind and willing to just chat and talk, and many of them speak English, so it was very easy to communicate while we were there. So just getting out and doing the things that the people do, going the places that they go, eating at the places that they eat. And one of the times when we were downtown, one of the times when we were in Jinja, we were going from a shop that we were looking into a restaurant, and we took bodas, which are like motorcycles basically. And that was super fun to just hop on the back of a boda and go. And I mean, that's how they get around oftentimes. So it's just kind of, allowing yourself to experience that. Obviously, like, anytime you go anywhere and travel, you need to be smart. You need to keep your head on your shoulders. You need to not do dumb things. but also have fun, relax a little bit, and try to just really enjoy and talk to people, get to know them, ask them their story, ask them, you know, questions, and just get to know them and talk to them. That was really one of the most beautiful things, was hearing people's stories and getting to know them. The fishermen who took us on a boat ride, and just various people that we met along the way that I was so fascinated by. The world is such a beautiful, incredible place with so many fascinating people. And that is my favorite part about travel. And that's what I hope to give to my kids by traveling with them as much as we can, is this view of like the world beyond what we see here in our little town, you know? But really what I'm hoping from this is to raise money for these different organizations. That's one of the biggest reasons why I want to share this with y'all, is because I know we have such an incredible community, and I'm really hoping that we can all rally together to raise money for Shine and to help get them to their goals where they need to be. They have such beautiful visions and plans for not just what they've already built, but what they are building in the future with a medical facility and things like that. They have a wonderful staff, and they could use more staff. There's so many, you know, needs to be able to make this even bigger and help more people. Like I said, I will leave all the links down below. I think it's so important to understand how Shine was built and what their goals are and what they work towards. But you know, if my opinion counts for anything, I can vouch for the fact that they are an ethical organization that is trying to prevent orphans, preserve families, help women get dignified jobs where they can work and provide for their families. It really is just such a beautiful thing. And it was my honor. It was truly my honor to go there and to spend time with them and to witness what they were doing and to help in any little way that I could. You know, just for the time that I was there. And I'm very excited to go back and spend some time and bring my family. You know, the biggest thing for organizations like Shine is sponsorships. You can donate one time if that's what you can do. I'm not discouraging that in any way. There's also a shop. If you want to shop for some items, if you have someone you need to give birthday presents to, or you just want to buy yourself a little present, there's a shop with lots of beautiful handmade items from Uganda in it that you would love, or anybody would love. So definitely check that out. But the biggest thing that we can do is sign up to be recurring monthly donors. I have made it my goal this month. I am turning 35. My goal for my 35th birthday is to motivate my followers, my viewers, the people who I know so many of y'all have the same heart that I do. And I want to mobilize that heart. And my goal is to get Shine 100 new sponsors. They need more than that to meet their funding goals. But I felt like 100 new sponsors will make such a huge, huge difference for them. So that is what I am asking. That's what I'm coming to you guys with today, is to ask you if you would consider joining me and our family and becoming recurring monthly sponsors for Shine. I will have all the links down below for you to do that. But if it's something that you can afford to do, if it's something within your budget, it would absolutely mean the world to me if you would do that. If you do that, please put in the notes section of it that you're coming from This Gathered Nest, so Love can give me your name, because our family would like to send you a little thank you for doing that. So we are hoping that together, like I said, we can get to 100 new monthly sponsors by my birthday. So I know that's a lot and I'm asking a lot, but I also know what an incredible community this is, and I 100% believe that it can be done. I hope you guys enjoyed this video and just hearing a little bit about my trip. That is it for today's video. Thank you guys so much for watching. I hope you enjoyed, and I will see you guys again very soon. Bye.